Yeah, thanks. So again, that today's agenda is about how to beef up the qualification test for SAI. We have new generation of proposals, new releases from 0.94 to 1.3. We add new APIs, new functionalities, as well as the attribution or the APIs are evolving. So today we are going to have a proposal by Prince from Microsoft. Here is we saw out ideas and brainstorming the test plan, trying to propose test cases, around 30 test cases in different areas that we would like to we would like to present to the community to take a look and welcome your feedback. Hopefully, we would like to add all this to the SAI test to be a qualification to beef up the quality of SAI implementation. Then at the end of this discussion, we would like to ask a question to the community that how do we divide and conquer that each one contribute to implement a few of the test cases so that we have a full bloom of side test. So with that, I'm going to promote Prince as the presenter.
Thank you, Shin.
Mm-hmm.
Can you all see my screen?
Yes,
Perfect.
I'm able to see it.
Okay. Shall we start?
Yeah, please go ahead, Prince.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, everyone. This is Prince. I work for the Sonic team in Microsoft. And today I'm going to present you with with an extended list of test cases that we can have as part of the side thrift test infrastructure. And just to give you a brief overview, we already have a set of test cases in existing in the side thrift test folder in the SAI repo. This covers almost all of the basic test cases, and what I'm presenting today is an extended list that is not covered as part of this basic functionality test. So so again, I'm not going in detail of all the test cases, but we'll just focus on this small mm, uh, table that gives you an overview of what are the planned test cases and how many test cases are there. And please feel free to stop and ask me any questions, and I'll definitely get back in case if I don't have an immediate answer for that. And with that, I'll just start with the test cases. So again, just one more thing. This is not an the complete list, but we still have more to cover, like the VXLAN, the QoS, or PFC. This is just something that we have found out in production, and issues with some of the SAI vendors. So without these test cases, if it can be tested as part of the SAI thrift, then it can be very well qualified for the application side, instead of writing all these functional test cases in the within the application context. So I'll go through the test cases and give a brief overview on each of this. So the first one is about the layer 3 directed broadcast test case, and I have come up with 2 test cases for that. These are the details, but I'll just provide an overview. This one is about sending packet to a unicast destination MAC address and a broadcast IP. So the expectation is if the outgoing interface is a VLAN interface, then the packet must be forwarded to all the member ports of the VLAN, and this also should take care of any member port addition deletion scenarios. So the packet must if a new port is added to the VLAN, then this layer 3 broadcast packet must be forwarded to the newly added port as well. So that's this test case, and it would be good if we can have this in the SAI thrift test case itself. Then moving on, I have the second test case that is about the layer 3 loopback subnet, wherein this is a simple test case to verify that a packet is received on one interface, and if the outgoing RF is same as the incoming interface, the packet must be forwarded based on the settings. So it's just to make sure that the packet can be forwarded on the same interface on which it is received. The third is about few MTU test cases where you send the packet with the maximum configured MTU, and if anything that exceeds that MTU must be dropped. And in the layer 2 scenario, this must also take care of the VLAN tags. So if you add a VLAN tag and that exceeds the MTU size, then the expected behavior must be to drop the packet. So again, the details of and the expectation of the test case are covered in detail down, and we can have any offline discussion if there is any more clarity is needed for the test case. The fourth test case is another interesting test case where if you have a route with a /32 route configured, and if there is also a neighbor that is learned for the same IP, then as per our pipeline model, the packet should be forwarded to the route entry and not the neighbor entry. So that is what is covered as part of this number 4 test case. So if the route is removed, then the packet must be forwarded to the neighbor IP, and the same vice versa, like removing and adding of different entries in the same context. So that's the number 4 test case. And the fifth one is about tagging to verify different tagging, like dual tagged and triple tag. And if you send a packet with a dual tag on an untagged port, and if the outgoing is a tagged port, then uh, then there must be a new tag added, and the packet must exit with 3 tags in the packet. So that is what is expected from this test case, and these are all simple test case that's just one test case for the tagging, and just 2 for the MTU to cover layer 2 and layer 3 MTU test cases. So I hope there are no questions on this. I'll just go forward. The number 6 is about MAC move scenarios, where in the case of layer 2 MAC move, we need to ensure that the packet is forwarded on the newly learned port when a MAC move happened, and not on the previously learned port. Similarly, for the layer 3, so the number 6 and number 7 are about MAC changes. Similarly, for the layer 3, when the ARP is learned on a MAC and that MAC is moved to a new port, the layer 3 packet must be now forwarded on the newly learned port. So also for the ARP entries, if the IP to MAC changes, then the MAC changes, then the packet should be forwarded accordingly based on the newly learned MAC. And we have few test cases, like almost 7 test cases related to MAC move and age out, and that's covered in detail down. Number 8 is about bridge port configuration. So if you have a bridge port that is let's say admin down, then the traffic must not be forwarded on that admin down bridge port, and also any FTP no FTP learning should be happening on a bridge port that is in admin down, and when you make the bridge port to admin up, then the traffic forwarding must happen, and the FTP learning should also restore. So we have like almost 3 test cases on that front. Going down, number 9 is about ECMP and lag hash seed testing. So this is basically to test the hash seed, and as we know, like it's always um, like based on the 5 tuple and send different packets and change the hash seed and see and verify the traffic behavior for the number 9 test case, and we have 2 to cover one lag and ECMP scenario. The number 10 is about V4 and V6 ECMP group member, and this is about adding a new okay, for ECMP, if you add a new next hop to the group, then we should see the traffic pattern and ensure that the packet is also forwarded to the newly added next hop member, as well as if the member is removed, then the packet forwarding must not happen for that ECMP group member. So also the ECMP group must be created if there is no member, like 0 member. In that case, also the SAI must create an ECMP group successfully. So this test case we can repeat for most of these test cases. We can repeat for both V4, IPv4, and V6. And that's why some of the test cases have few more numbers, because it's a repeated test case for V4 and V6. The last one that I have covered here is about ACL table. We can have ACL test cases with different bindings on lag, VLAN, and port, and check that the traffic flow. So when a layer 3 packet is forwarded to a lag interface, and if you I have an ACL table that is bind to a lag, and the action says to drop the packet, then the packet forwarding must not happen. So similarly, we can have different bindings. So ACL test cases can be really exhaustive to check on various bindings and both for V4 and V6. So so that's the ACL test. Like I said, this is it's not exhaustive. We have more test cases to cover, and please feel free to add any missing components or categories that you would like to. But this is something that we have came up with based on our test observations and deployments. So any that's about the test cases, and any comments or questions on this?
So hey,
Hello.
Prince.
Yep.
Sorry. So hi, Prince. It's Mike Lazar here. Good to hear from you.
Hi, Mike. Yeah.
So anyway, so these test cases you mentioned, it's not a comprehensive list. That's fine. Now, in order to execute these test cases, I do assume that we need a SAI implementation and an NPU. Do we assume any other test configuration? Like I know the README mentioned Scrappy and other things. So what's the do we have, and so that's one thing, like a test configuration in terms of hardware.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, does it assume any a specific network operating system? Like, do you need just Sonic, or can it run anywhere? And if it can, I know that we have instructions, but to install, but they are not, I mean, you know, I tried to follow them at one point, and it was not entirely clear whether they were meant for a P4, like a P4 simulator environment, or for an NPU. And in general, what's the requirement of the OS? I mean, it would be, maybe we can work together on that, but it would be great to clarify these points. Like, what's the test setup?
That's right, Mike. So my thinking is these are SAI thrift test cases. So we would not need, you know, any Sonic or OS on this. So we can have the test cases that's running with SAI thrift. Also, the other thing is we can provide the infrastructure or test or the you know, validating the test once it is ready. So that, I think, more details on how this can be done, we can have some brainstorming sessions. But
okay,
yeah,
we can have some offline discussions.
yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, hi, it's Itai. My experience with the PTF test, you basically need just Linux with the PTF and Thrift installed.
That's,
And
yeah.
I think the only assumption that I know of is that the hash functionality is the 5 tuple. That assumption is not maybe well documented inside the SAI spec of having the hash fields at that configuration, but that's, I think, the only assumption I remember.
I see. Okay, but anyways, in the test cases, I have captured it as you know, 5 tuple. So if that helps,
Yeah.
yeah.
I can also update that as Mellanox, we are going to contribute within a week or two, I hope. We did some updates for all the PTF tests. There were few issues needed to bring them to the latest SAI headers. And we also going to contribute 3 tests for WRED and ECN, and a test for unicast miss behavior and broadcast miss behavior. So it's
Okay.
not in the tables here, but we are going to contribute 5 new tests.
Yeah. Okay. I think we can cover that as well, Ita. I can update the table because it's a pull request. So the one that you mentioned is about the FTP unicast miss packet.
Yeah. So yeah,
Okay.
one is about FDB unicast miss packet action. One will be for the FDB broadcast miss packet action, and
Okay.
three tests will be for WRED and ECN.
Okay.
So, I mean, there's something that I'm still not entirely clear on. So, is this test suite intended to test a generic SAI, like an ID, like something that's just a P4 simulation and a engine, or is it intended to test a SAI implementation on an actual ASIC?
We run it on top of our ASIC.
Okay.
And everything, all existing tests work fine.
That's right, Mike. This test is intended to test on actual ASIC on a particular SAI implementation. So basically, if these test cases pass, that means, like, you know, it is passed on the real ASIC.
Okay. Now, so anyway, maybe. Do you mind if I set up a meeting next week with you and maybe Itai, and we'll go over it? I don't know whether, like, some of these.
Yeah, fine. No issue.
Okay.
No problem from my side.
Sure,
Itai?
Okay.
fine with me.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I would like to ask the community to see, before we can go into one or two details, like test details, to see, like, in general, that this is an effort to beef up the site implementation quality, and also that to ensure that implementation and the API behavior is expected, like works as expected, as defined in the standard. Do you guys see this is like valuable effort, or that should we have like a strict qualification for each site release? Any thoughts to share?
I think again from my side it's very valuable, and we use the PTF suite to qualify our new SAI releases, and it definitely gives us confidence that our implementation is correct spec-wise, and you know, even and the spec itself is interpreted correctly, and maybe if a code needs to be compatible between platforms, it ensures this compatibility. So we definitely at Mellanox see the test as useful.
Okay. Okay, 1 second. Sorry, I forgot to unmute the people. Let me double check who are not unmuted. I need to mute them.
So other thing, Shin, is like some of these test cases, if we can identify at the SAI level, layer itself, then it would be really helpful from identifying any issues at a later stage. So that's one other intention of these test cases, right?
Yeah. Let me actually see. Someone is raising hand in the community.
It looks to be Gohan, and unfortunately, Gohan, I'm just seeing that you're not connected to audio, which may be why you're not able to speak.
Right. Do you mind to join? Okay, I think now is, yeah. Okay.
He's dialed your phone now, so Gohan, if you'll enter your audio pin, which is, yep, you've just done that, so now we can unmute you, and now you can speak.
Hello.
Gohan, if you're trying to speak, you may be self-muted. Can you check to make sure?
Mm-hmm.
I'm showing you as connected to audio now. There we go.
Okay. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I was trying to follow up the mic. So I think if Mike has the question is, I don't know if other vendors have the same question, like how to run the PTF test. You know, I think maybe we can do a follow-up session, like maybe Itai can just next time or do a quick demo on how to run the PTF test, those things, right? So that I think probably we can do a follow-up on that, so that all the members know what is the setup and how to run the PTF test. It's just maybe a 5 minutes demo, then people knows how to run the PTF test in general.
Yes, we can definitely do that. And by the way, regarding the existing PTF test, there is also the host interface test, which is a bit more tricky to run using PTFNN. So I can also explain a little about that. The PTFNN is a bit more tricky as it mirrors the traffic on NetDev. So it took us some time to understand exactly how to use it. So we can go also into that.
Okay, so that would be really useful. I don't know whether we could schedule something for maybe next Thursday. I don't know. It's up to you. I mean, it's your time.
Yeah, we can do next Thursday or whatever people here prefer.
Yeah, that's good time.
Okay, so we will do that.
Okay, so with that, let's actually first look into the test cases for one or two to help everyone to have a better understanding. Prince, do you mind to pick one?
Sure. That's right, Shin. We can go one of the test case in detail. So I think, shall I prefer this number 6 test case, 6, 7, and 8, which is covering the v4/32 test. So basically, what it says is to add a route entry with /32 prefix. And there's an example here, 10.1.1.1/32 via an next hop 1. And there's also a neighbor entry for the same IP address, like 10.1.1.1 MAC1 and port 1. And if when you send up traffic and verify, the test case is to verify that the packet takes the path that is specified by /32 route entry and not the neighbor path. So this is something that we have observed in our test in our internal testing. So this way, the pipeline model of SAI is very well tested, irrespective of how the ASIC lookup is happening.
Hello. So, Prince, I had a question on this test case. So, in the SAI pipeline, how do you, what do you refer in the SAI pipeline according to which the /32 route should be given higher priority than the complete match in neighbor? Because in SAI pipeline, all this looks in a serial. So basically, it's router table followed by next hop group table, followed by next hop table, then I think ref check, and then comes the neighbor table. So probably you carry the results till the neighbor table, and at the neighbor table, probably you have to do some resolution, right? So suppose it's not a /32 route, some other route, and you find a match in neighbor table takes higher priority, right? So at least I understand in the pipeline that we have, the neighbor table hit will take a higher priority.
So that's exactly what we are trying to solve by this test case. Where if you have a neighbor and a route that is exactly the same, then the preference is for the route entry.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to understand that when I look at the SAI pipeline diagram, like I'm referring to the GitHub only, and I think I'm looking at the behavioral model pipeline v6.pdf. I think that should be the latest one. And in that it is, when I look at that, I cannot really see that deterministically talk about that behavior. So I just wanted to understand that, I mean, what is your reference based on which this test case is talking about certain expectations?
Sure. So, like I said, this is from my understanding of the SAI pipeline, and wherein the route entry is given the high priority. So what I'll do is I'll check my reference on the pipeline model, and where it clearly says what is the preference. So similarly, like the intention is for each test case, if there is a difference in expectation, then we can have take it as a review, and then clarify that. So I'm sure that most of the test cases, the expected behavior might be slightly different from what is for each SAI vendor. So that's why we need to have this as a commonly agreed. So
I think so if if you can add that reference in the document, right? So it would be easier for us to review as well, because I just looked at this test case, and of course, I mean, this is really an interesting test case, as you told, right? So I was just trying to see that behavior, and I just opened the pipeline, and I could not really figure out that how we really reach to this conclusion that this should be the behavior, right? So that's why I asked that question. So please add that. And another suggestion is that your index, right, that is test category, and then the test numbering is completely flat. So if you can make it in sections, probably it would be a good thing.
Actually, I added this only for today's discussion. So what is that?
Okay, sure.
Yeah. So I just wanted to, we don't want to go in detail for each of the test case in favor of time. So do you? What actually I would like to understand what you're saying is this.
No, I'm saying
I see. Okay.
So initially, when you started talking, right, I was trying to refer the ID and the test case, and somehow I could not correlate.
Okay.
So just a suggestion.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Thanks. Yeah. That's all.
Thanks for the input.
Yeah, definitely. I think I'll take it and add this to the pull request. Is that fine on the references to each of the test case? If not for this particular test case or any other test case, if there is a reference that is required for the pipeline model, then I'll add it to the pull request. Is that fine, Shin?
Yeah, that's a good suggestion.
To the pull request, right? Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Ramesh. I have a question on the PTF test cases as well. There's several things that came to my mind. One is, earlier Shin was mentioning that if running the PTF should be made as part of the image qualification. And so I was wondering, why can't some of these things be done as part of the Ansible test suites that are already available? That was one question that I had. And
okay, sure.
No, go on.
No, when you say Ansible test case, it's testing on the Sonic or any application on the NOS is what you're referring?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, but this one we wanted to qualify at the SAI itself.
Okay, I see. Yeah, this is the
Sonic,
second.
just a comment for me. Sonic is the main OS that uses SAI, but not the only OS that uses SAI. So we definitely
absolutely. I understand that. I kind of that point. Because when it comes to qualification, when you mentioned qualification, the only thing that came to my mind was Sonic, because nobody really qualifies SAI, because well, maybe there are switch vendors, they do it. Absolutely, I understand that. And the other question I had was, the question that Gohan also had, right? Because some of the test cases here, especially
sorry, Ramesh.
When it comes to ECMP test cases,
Ramesh.
it requires a certain topology. Yes.
Yeah, you're breaking out. Can you please repeat?
Oh, okay. I think my voice. I'll do a phone call. I'll disconnect and call back.
No, I
Yeah.
think it is fine now, actually.
Now it's fine. Yeah. Before,
Yeah.
can you repeat? Just yeah.
Now, what I was trying to is, the same point that Gohan had about, the topology required to test this is something not so easy. We, especially when it comes to the ECMP test cases where we require certain number of ports, so it has specific requirements on the systems that are required for the testing. So it will be really useful if the test methodology is also published.
Yeah, so I think I mean that was my comment before. So what I meant by test harness, test setup is what's the topology? Like how's the connectivity between the server and the switch? Like for a standardized test.
I think my guess. So this is a very good question. I think this we can do a follow up and then add more documents in the PTF test. How to set what is the topology? How to set up the environment to run this set of SAI strip test, right? So that I think we can do a follow up and later, once we have all the documents, then we can give a kind of a short demo in the community meeting so that everybody knows. I believe this is more easier to set up than the Sonic test because it needs less ports to start with. And another thing I want to address is that even most of the SAI is used by Sonic mostly, but having this SAI test separate with the Sonic stack, I think there are many benefits. I think one of them I see is that Sonic requires sometimes to implement a feature, and if we just try to qualify the SAI, we have the cadence. We can first, before Sonic release, we can have a SAI test there, so people can, actually implement the SAI features and then use a qualification test to test it, and then later the integration with our nodes will become easier. Either Sonic or other nodes that use the SAI. Yeah. So.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. So it's way better to qualify the SAI, to have a standardized suite of test cases just for the SAI. So.
Yeah. So I think I lost the audio during the middle. I didn't know. So I think one thing is that because these tests are not implemented yet. So one thing we want to is to be able to distribute the workload among the community members. Although there are 30 tests, but we have a lot of members. So each member you don't have to implement all of them. We can share the load. I think that's one of the beauty of this PTF test. I was wondering, maybe I don't know if it's a good suggestion. Maybe we can set up kind of a wiki on the SAI website, in the GitHub site, and list the tests that we need to done, and then and people can sign off, claim the owner of some of the test, and then there will be no duplicate efforts. So, any.
No, I think it's a good idea, Gohan. So if we could have basically, it would be a web page where we, each participant says, I'm going to provide these test cases.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. Okay. Is there any other questions? So I think we'll go ahead and set up this wiki page on this here, so that we have all the 30 tests listed, and then we also have an owner page so that people can claim ownership, and then later,
Yeah, and
Yeah.
go ahead. I think
Yeah.
So
Let
Prince,
me
I
chime
wanted to
in.
ask
Yeah.
the new
Yeah.
tests, are they require a certain amount of ports? Because my experience, existing tests other than one, they require a pretty minimal setup of only 4 ports connected
yeah,
between a client and a host, so a client and the switch. So do we keep this assumption?
yes, I think in even in the ECMP test, it's maximum of 4. So I would say 4 ports, but probably, like, if there is anything that you see with difficulty in the setup, we can just adjust the test case to accommodate that. But 2 to or 3 to 4 would be the max.
Okay.
yeah. So
Okay.
I think that one we will clarify in the in a further document to.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I think it will be very good. I mean, again, from my experience, all existing stuff other than 1 or 2 tests, they run on top of 4 ports. So I will be happy if people implementing will keep using this basically minimal setup of 4 ports, and thus we keep the PTF packet PTF test pretty minimal and not requiring too much to be run.
Yeah.
Let me chime in, ask the community that so we could do two things. One is seems like there are still questions about setup on each test cases that we can go over them so that to see everyone if you have any questions or any comments on this, so to beef up these test cases or documentation. The second way to do that, we can also set it up. This is a pull request already online. You can take a look first and come back to discuss next time on the cases. I think it will be great that the community agrees on the test cases and maybe chime in to how to or like some of the changes needed.
I think, Shin, I have a suggestion here. So once for the, at least for the test case, for
Yeah.
the test infra, I think Itai is going to give a presentation. But for the
Yeah.
test case itself, if there are any comments or concerns, I would say we can get it in the comments as part of the pull request, and whichever test case has some multiple comments with the difference of expected behavior, that test cases alone we can bring in for a discussion, because I don't think we need to go through all the test cases if everyone agrees for most of it. So the ones that have a difference of expectation, we can bring in for discussion. What do you think?
That's one way to do that. That's why I saw this question to the community.
Okay.
What will help everyone? To take it, to look at it offline, or to discuss it here in general, go over here.
I think we will go over it offline once. But as we already suggested, right, we would also need the reference or some justifications on the expectations of the test case, right, with respect to some reference to the pipeline model, or even some comments in the SAI header file or in the SAI spec. So if those are also captured, then I think it will be easier to think through and come back for a very productive discussion. So that's my understanding.
Okay. That's great. So how about this? Hey, Prince, do you think you will have time to be able to add this reference model before next discussing?
Yeah, I think for some of the test case that that we discussed and would require a reference, I can add that. But I think some of the other things like MTU and all is pretty straightforward. So, like I said again, if the community can go through and if there is any specific requirement for any other references, I can definitely add that as well. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
how
I'll
about
try to add as much as possible.
yeah. So how about this? The ask to community then is to go back to take a look and add your comments. We will come back to revisit this next week. Add your comments, and we are going to revisit next week. Yeah. Also a heads up that we talk about telemetry and programmability, how to make further discussing and to be more effective and as well as more productive. We are still working on the logistics, how to organize this. We will let a team like a community know very soon. Yeah, it's not that it will not happen. Yeah, just try to find the best way so interested people in that topic can get engaged, as well as it has a good cadence to have a continuous discussing.
Thank you, Shin.
Yeah, thanks.
I had one more question. This PT test case is actually, is there a plan for transforming this to the scripts, actual PTF scripts, so that so that we can also these new test cases especially. So that is when it will be like more when we'll be able to run it with different SAI implementations and get the the feedback even to a deeper level. So we also see a plan to start writing these as scripts in parallel.
You are right. Actually, the ultimate goal is to translate this to script to test cases to implement this test, so that like after implementation of SAI, able to run. Yeah, one is able to run through these test cases to validate the SAI implementation. That is the goal.
Yep.
Yeah, test cases is to iterate, to discuss, that to see if anyone has feedback, any clarification, and also try to trigger more thoughts in the community. If you see anything missing, should be added. That's a very welcome. Yeah, the ideas. And then when implementation, we are thinking just because many ASIC companies, if they need to develop these test cases, we could actually, if everyone develop only 5 or 4, as or collectively together, the whole 30 can be implemented and shared within community, so that you don't need to implement the whole 30 test cases. We can leverage each other's work. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Yes. Thanks.
Thanks.
One comment about leaving notes about the test case. It might be a bit more helpful if the document is markdown, because
Sure.
yeah.
I have the plans. I'll soon convert it. Yep.
Yeah, I want
Yeah.
to leave some comments, and right now I probably need to track changes in Word, but it will be easier to just leave them on the text.
Yeah. Sure. Today or lately by tomorrow, I'll convert it into Markdown.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. We have only 3 more minutes left. Any other comments or thoughts? if there's no more, thanks everyone for your time. Yeah, talk to you next time.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.